Kia ora. The focus for this week is achievement goal theory, which is also sometimes called goal orientation theory. It's a theory that's been really widely used to understand motivation and behaviour in sport and also in physical education. And it's a theory that was first developed really by educational psychologists and with a strong focus in developmental psychology, so trying to understand how our experiences, thoughts, cognitions and behaviours change through various life phases. But achievement goal theory is a powerful theory for analysing any situation where someone might be judging their competence in a particular activity where there is some degree of social comparison. So you've had two goal orientations, the two main goal orientations introduced to you. The first video, which you would have noted, was by an educational psychologist, which speaks to the origins of where this theory was developed. In sport-related research, it's more common to talk about a task orientation and an ego orientation, rather than the mastery and performance, which was used in the first video. But as was explained, both are relevant. Achievement goal theory is also very, very closely linked to understanding how people perceive their own levels of competence, and we'll look at that in class in more detail on Monday. Like I said before, one of the key facets of achievement goal theory is that it's from developmental psychology. And one of the things that we know is that people's motivation and the way that they understand success changes over time. And this is one of the things that achievement goal theory deals with in a very clear manner. Is the self-determined motivation doesn't have the same understanding of how psychology develops over time. And the second video in your playlist for this week very briefly talks about how children's motivation changes over time, and it brushes over some pretty key areas, so I thought I should address those in a little bit more detail. Nichols, who was really the founding scholar within achievement goal theory, suggested that there were 4 phases of development of goal orientations, and that you start off sort of age 1-ish, 2-ish, 3-ish in an undifferentiated goal perspective. And with an undifferentiated goal perspective, you don't distinguish between effort, ability or success. So 3-year-olds, I have a 3.5-year-old at the moment, are very obsessed by being first. But they don't really understand why you might be first or why you might not be first. So they don't really understand that a foot race against an adult isn't a fair match and that the adult has to let them win. As far as they're aware or can perceive, if they try their best, they should probably win. And if they try their best, that means they've got a lot of ability. So when they don't win, it's very upsetting to them, because usually when they try to win, they've done their best. And they can't understand that doing your best doesn't always mean that you'll come first. So there's a lot of confusion there, and there's no clear differentiation between focusing on improving your ability or beating other people, or the other factors that might influence competitive success. As children reach sort of primary school age, somewhere around 6 to 7, they will start to realise that effort and ability are not necessarily the same thing. So they will realise that some people are better at some things than other people are. However, they will tend to equate effort with success, which means that they believe that if they try their best, they will succeed, and potentially they will win. And success doesn't necessarily mean winning. So again, the challenge for this age group is that if we set up situations where only a very, very small number of participants can succeed, can win, so some sort of elimination or competitive situation where you're measuring who the best person is, all of the people who try their best and don't succeed don't have adequate goal differentiation in order to understand why that's the case. So it's very demotivating for them because they've done their best. As far as they can tell, they should succeed. That's where their psychological understanding has developed to. And so it's very challenging for them to process that. Now, you can't simply explain that to a child and have them understand it because they don't have that level of cognition yet. Third stage, transitional differentiation, is when children start to differentiate between effort and ability. And here we're really looking at late primary school sort of age, and there's a wide spectrum at which of ages at which kids go through these changes. So kids do realise that they can distinguish between effort and ability. And as was mentioned in the one of the previous videos, this is where you'll see people stop trying once someone else has already won, because they realise that the game is up, that they can't, doesn't matter how hard they try, they won't necessarily succeed now, someone else has already succeeded. But it's only the early stages of this understanding, so they don't necessarily consistently identify that someone might do very well without trying because they've got high ability, and someone else might try really hard and do just as well, but it's not because of their ability, it's because of how much effort they've put in. And there is a strong tendency in this phase to be highly outcome orientated, to be very interested in who the fastest is, who the smartest is, who can throw the ball the furthest, who can jump the highest. If you can think of a competition, lots of kids at this age group are very interested in those sorts of competitions. But they also struggle to process the consequences of that because they can't consistently distinguish between these things. Now, once you get to sort of maybe the borderline between childhood and puberty, this is when you start to see people develop a differentiated goal perspective, which is when you can distinguish between the different causes of success. Now, we've talked about ability and effort so far, but there's also luck. Sometimes the person who wins was just lucky. The ball bounced the right way, and that was really what the determining factor was in who succeeded. And that's really important. If you can't step back and realize that there was a good deal of luck or chance involved in who succeeded in a particular setting, then you're constantly going to be beating yourself up for things that were outside of your control, or claiming credit which isn't sustainable because actually you won because you got lucky. So the ability to tell the difference between ability, effort, and luck, and how these three things can influence the outcome is really important. And so what this means is, when we're working with young people who don't have a differentiated goal perspective, we have to be aware of these psychological differences. They're not just little adults in terms of their thinking and their processing, and the fact that many of them are interested in outcome orientations doesn't mean that a focus on outcome orientations from people in leadership positions is actually productive.